It's Thursday, August 31st, 2017. Our panelists today, Stan McDonald, a political consultant, and Shannon Reeves, an assistant professor of political science at Alabama A&M. I'm Dale Jackson. You're watching Yellowhammer TV live. Thanks for joining us here on Yellowhammer TV Live. Lots to talk about today. The Hurricane Harvey recovery continues. Republicans continue to fight themselves over that. Donald Trump has a tax plan, and a congressman is not running for governor, which I think tells us that KIV is. But we'll talk about all of that here in just a bit. Let's go ahead and get to the headlines. Eventually, the water will recede in Houston and the surrounding areas. Harvey will dissipate completely, and then we will have to talk about recovery. Part of that recovery conversation will take place in Washington, D.C. Individuals in Texas, including a good number of their congressmen and Senator Ted Cruz, voted against an aid package for Superstorm Sandy. A lot of folks from New York and the media are not letting these Republicans off the hook on that vote. Now, there's a lot to be said about that particular vote. We could talk a little bit about some of the pork inside that bill and what was actually there. But let's talk about the inner Republican battle over this right now. You got to have your party together in order to get things done. The party seems to be somewhat fractured already. This seems to be making it worse. We have Ted Cruz and Chris Christie continuing their 2016 primary battle during their runs for president. Cruz calling Chris Christie desperate for media attention. Chris Christie calling Ted Cruz despicable for his vote. Stan, how hard is it going to be for them to come up with some sort of bill that gets done? Yeah, Ted Cruz is on board, but there seems to be a lot of animosity towards him because of his vote, even though I would argue that it was probably a principled vote at the time and a very tough political vote, knowing eventually he was going to run for president, to not just open up the bank and say, here, take what you want, take what you want. Mm-hmm. How hard is it going to be for them to put this together and get something done?
Well, I think it'll be pretty difficult. I agree with you too, Dale. I think it was probably a principled vote, and it was hard to do. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of infighting. I think, Chris Christie, I am very much not a Chris Christie fan. I think he missed a great opportunity of being a Democrat, in my opinion, and should have been one. And but this is the type of fight that'll go on in the Republican Party for sure. And I do think, like you alluded to, that the real Sandy vote had a lot of pork in it, but there'll be a lot of pork in this one too.
I think that's true, Shannon. With these two, they're both big names. The media loves to have Chris Christie on. He's a governor of the state that's right next to, and it's easy for him to get over to the studios and hit 6 shows in one day, and he's all over the place. They love him. I believe he was on Morning Joe at 6 a.m. and then he was on Chris Hayes on MSNBC at like 8 p.m. So he was all over the networks over the last couple of days. Chris Christie is an outspoken guy. He was one of the more moderate Stan's got me thinking Democrats, one of the more moderate Republicans. He's not in the Senate, though. Is this feeling shared by a bunch of people in the Senate as well, or is this just Christie, like Cruz saying, seeking out the media?
Well, like you say, he's available in the New York area to do all the media in the New York area. But I mean, he is a sitting governor who did have a crisis, and he's a human being, so he still kind of remembers the criticisms that he was given. They threw Obama around his neck and said that he had a bro hug, with Obama during that period of time. But I think in situations like this, we find out with crises that government is not a hobby. You need government to actually function and be able to deliver, because there are people down there who are actually suffering. You don't just open up the checkbook for anything, but you're going to have to really be focused and hope the government will actually be efficient. So whether or not it'll be a clean bill, whether or not they'll tie it to the debt ceiling, we don't know yet. But you definitely have to ensure that dollars are going to actually go to what's needed. But guess what? We're going to have plenty of time, and it won't just be one budget.
Well, Chris Christie's running out of time here in his time in elected office, and he seems, I think Cruz is right. I think this is a guy searching for the next step. They've asked, are you going to go to Trump's administration? But Trump seems to have kind of thrown him to the wayside. It really appears, is Christie searching for relevance here, or is this just something that's in his heart?
I think kind of both. I mean, that's what politicians do, right? You're looking for the next opportunity. Your time is actually up. But I think still, he has not forgotten what Cruz said during the campaign during this time. And it's an opportunity, yes, for him to be relevant. But there is a certain point. You don't play politics with recovery dollars either. There are people actually suffering. There are a lot of red tape, a lot of regulations that have to be dealt with. So, like I say, the unfortunate problem is this won't be a one-year fix. This will be something that government will have to, you have to fund, then you have to evaluate, fund, modify, change. So these are the things that will happen with government going forward for the next couple of years.
Who's winning this fight right now? It looks like Christie is sort of winning mostly because he has the media on his side. That's just my interpretation. Who's winning the fight right now?
It's an emotion. Emotion will win right now, and Christie will appear to be, he's getting all the attention as it will. But over time, Cruz is the one that have a vote.
That's true. All right, who's winning the fight in your opinion, Stan?
Well, I think Ted Cruz is ultimately. I think the substance is on his side. I'm a long-time Chris Christie watcher / not liker.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking with my heart and my head on that.
Okay, let's move on to the next issue. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen something that is pretty intriguing. Nancy Pelosi denouncing Antifa more than 24 hours ago. And now Paul Ryan, the head of the Republicans in the House, comes out and denounces this group as well. What I found odd about this is this group, and maybe Paul Ryan had no need to denounce. It's not as if they were helping him or they agree with him. But why do you think Paul Ryan felt the need to come out and denounce this group after Nancy Pelosi did? I mean, it's got to be a response to what Nancy Pelosi did. On the right, people were pounding on Paul Ryan because when Trump said both sides after Charlottesville, he was one of the guys who came out and said Trump's wrong for saying that. How dare he? Then Nancy Pelosi comes out and says basically the same thing. Why did it take Paul Ryan more time to come out and denounce Shannon?
I mean, who knows? I mean, we're getting into
the denouncing game is kind of lame, personally.
Yeah, we're getting into this area of absurdity. Why do I have to even denounce things that are not associated with me, right? I see some, it's not even, I have nothing to do with it whatsoever, but I'm forced to kind of come out and denounce something of this nature. So we're really just getting down here in the weeds with it. I don't know.
But Nancy Pelosi had to denounce this because it happened in her district. These are her allies. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And the media, I'll tell you, the part that bothered me is how slow the media was to go to Democrats and say, these guys are out here doing your dirt. This is your military arm, essentially. We've went out and asked every Republican we could possibly find about the white nationalists and stuff, even though we know they don't agree with them on this aspect of their playing. How come the media was so slow to go to them on this?
Well, that's to say that they created the narrative going after the president first. So now here we are with this incident in Berkeley, and it's not just in Berkeley, by the way. It's all over the place. And being from the San Francisco Bay Area, you have to know there's inside. Democrats try to act as if they're unified on all fronts. Democratic Party is a coalition party. They have all types of factions that are unsavory as well in the Democratic Party. So even this group, Berkeley has always been a hostile place. Okay, and just because if you're not wacky enough, right, you'll get whacked, by groups like this.
Okay, so what I find interesting about this, and Stan, I'll let you weigh in Boston, they showed video of the Antifa people coming into the crowd, and the regular protesters were applauding them. The equivalent of this is going to an event like a Tea Party and white nationalists walking in and people being like, yay, hooray. So there is an acceptance of this within that movement, within the Democratic Party, right, Stan? I mean, this is, I call them their military wing, just because that's what they look like to me.
I mean, these guys are their ideological heroes, to be honest. I mean, this thing is ideological, and these Antifa guys just have the guts to live out what they say they believe.
They have so they're willing to get out there and bloody their knuckles. Well, these other guys stand by the side of them.
And the whole thing about Nancy Pelosi, I mean, you're right. She has to give a denouncement because she's logically inextricably tied with these people. you know, for Paul Ryan to come out and denounce, you're right, that's the big question. I mean, he lives his life as a denouncement of these kind of people. I think the only reason he has to come out and do it is maybe he just wants to keep the subject matter rolling, I guess.
Okay. Adam Schiff, too, another big-name Democrat who's mostly risen to fame through this Russia investigation, also came out and denounced these guys. What do they do? Shannon, what's their response? What is the response of this group and other Democrats? Now other Democrats seem to be on notice. If you sort of give lip service to this, you are owning them. Is that right?
Yeah, but they're going to do the same thing they've been doing. I mean, you think about it. Whether they have, what's the difference between Antifa and the Klan, right? They both wear hoods, right? So it's this whole thing of, you know, you cover up your personal identity, that you can go to work every day and quote unquote be normal and blend in, but then in the evening, you know, you plot anarchy. Yeah. So it's like these groups, number one, they've always been there on various issues, whatnot. But now you're getting, with the ability of social media, you're able to recruit, you're able to kind of gear up these populations to stir it up. And in some cases, to have someone like Pelosi to denounce it actually gets some of them even more fired up. Wow. Because they don't necessarily see her as their hero from their vantage point.
Well, they definitely view her as an enemy now.
Yeah, well, yes, they see her as establishment as it stands, and these are younger people as well. And how old is she? I mean, so there's not necessarily a direct connection. And again, because I grew up there, I know what her district is like. And there are a whole lot of factions. They just tend, the Antifa folk tend to be the ones that don't vote, however.
Oh, okay. Now, here's just one more quick thing here. Donald Trump said both sides after Charlottesville. Now Nancy Pelosi's saying it. Why did we have 2 weeks of wringing our hands over that if this was, in fact, the reality? I don't understand that part. Moving to the state of Alabama, this is an odd story in the sense that I think we all saw this coming, but it again throws more weight behind the narrative that Kay Ivey is going to run for office, and I think it's not official, but it all but is official. Bradley Byrne, congressman from South Alabama, Mobile area, not running for governor, instead running for re-election. Again, Del Marsh out. We see all these people who have current positions who might have ran getting out. This is just did Kay Ivey scare him out?
I don't think it was Kay Ivey. I think it was the kingmaker swimming in the swimming pool down there.
Oh, is that what it was? It was me. I scared him out. So the swimming, me swimming in the governor's swimming pool was an endorsement.
Well, you know, I tell you what, you've become part of the establishment now.
Yeah, yes.
And
did she scare him out though, for real?
Yes.
Yeah.
The short answer is yes, she did.
Okay, Shannon, this is just another guy who we know wants to be governor. I mean, there's just no question about that. His end game would be governor. We thought Luther Strange wanted to be governor as well. He didn't run for Senate, and I think he didn't run for Senate thinking that Kay Ivey was eventually going to get out. Not many people actually expected Kay Ivey to run for governor, but now it's crystal clear. Del Marsh is out. Bradley Byrne is out. Now you have, Mayor Battle, David Carrington from Jefferson County, John McMillan, who's term limited, Jim Ziegler, guys like that who don't have jobs that are either up. These guys have the ability to go ahead and stay in their current jobs and run for this. So Kay Ivey's in. Does she scare him?
Yes, but it's not uncommon. This is basic political calculus. How much effort would I have to put in to be successful to win this race? Are my donors there for me? Well, where will I be able to mobilize, and what will be my line of attack? If I'm a Republican congressman, I have a sitting Republican governor, what is my line of attack to run against Kay Ivey, who, by the way, is a woman, and who has a pretty strong approval rating at this point? What would be my pathway to victory and to success? Or do I just run for re-election in the House and hold fast and see how things develop going forward in the future?
Yeah, I think that's probably, and he's a younger man for politics.
He's calculated out and figure out ways to increase my brand. If there's an opportunity, I can always jump on it, and I can build my federal war chest. And if I ever need it, I can jump and dump it into a state race.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Let's talk again about the Alabama Senate race. These guys are actually firing at each other over an actual issue, their performance as former Alabama politicians, and not so much over who likes Trump more or things like this. There are ads out now. Strange has officially launched, I guess, this round of his campaign, and the ads hit more for taking a pay raise. To me, that seems rather weak because Moore was a Chief Justice. It didn't go out and seek a pay raise. He was given a pay raise by the legislature. He's not the one who puts that place in play. But Strange is starting to hit him on his time. He also talked about sticking taxpayers with the bill over all of his legal battles. Now, a couple of things here. He didn't go into what those legal battles were about. He's not talking about the Ten Commandments. He's not talking about gay marriage. He's talking about money. This is an interesting attack because it nuances it away from what it would help more, which is the monuments and the gay marriage and stuff like that, and towards like the you cost us money while you took a pay raise. Are these even fair? I mean, are these attacks fair, Stan?
No, they're not fair. But you know, we're going to see these Luther Strange or the Senate Leadership Fund's consultants are as sophisticated as you can possibly get. And to answer your question is no, it's not fair, but they're doing lots of research, and all they have to do is hit just the right niche and take Roy Moore down in just the right issue in just the right way. If they're putting dollars behind it, you can bet that they have figured out that there's a way to peel certain people off on this.
Now, Shannon, with this attack on Moore, we've learned before that the McDonald campaign will take something that's a nugget of truth and sort of blow it up into this big thing. We've seen polls now that show a 4-point gap, a statistical dead heat, 19-point gap, whatever it is. This angle seems weird to me, but Moore fires back by calling him desperate and saying, quote, he wanted to be a senator so badly he sacrificed his integrity by taking the Senate appointment from disgraced Governor Robert Bentley, a man he was supposed to be investigating for criminal acts. We've heard that before. Right. But we've got to see that work its way onto television in order to ice this thing for Moore, correct?
Yes, and you have to test. You have to test and see kind of where's the message working. I'm sure they're focus grouping different issues and trying to figure it out. I mean, this is politics. Now, I have to disagree with my friend Stan just a little bit. In politics, everything is fair, right? It's all fair. It's whatever's going to actually work. And to do what Stan said last week, they're coming for your children. Right? They're coming for you, right? They're going to change your mind, right? So yes, this is what it is. It's going. What Stan predicted last week, it's going. They're just getting started. But yeah, so the next few weeks, here we go.
$2.5 million getting dumped in this week, and I just want to get your guys' thoughts as a professor, a guy who's done a lot of politics, a political consultant. They had $2.5 million bucks. Radio is what they're dumping their money into, and then things like HGTV. Comedy Central. I mean, Fox News is on the list, but I saw a list of all the places. It's a bunch of cable nets, A&E, stuff like this. I haven't seen only local TV. It may be there, but it wasn't in this earlier report. Does this surprise you they're going to these softer targets with the Moore stuff? I mean, is there a reason for that, Stan?
Well, the reason is kind of like I said, you know, they're trying to find the soft support for Roy Moore and peel them. And, you know, it's a real science, Dale, on, you know, where they place these ads and stuff. And I don't claim to be a guy who understands that, but I just know that it's like Shannon said.
Am I reading too much into those placements? Because I just found it odd as I looked at the list of places it was going, Shannon. And I would have thought if you're in a Republican primary runoff, you do the local channels, talk radio, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, and be done.
Something is told them in the data, like Stan said, that there's something that could be out there. 2.5 mil is kind of a small buy based on what they're planning to do, you know, going forward, just to see where they have. And you have to look at also the demographic. Who do they believe, based on data they have? Are they looking for suburbanites? Are they looking for the soccer mom types? Are they looking for who's watching? What time of day?
Could they be potentially looking for people who didn't vote in the first round?
Oh, they absolutely have to be.
I mean, they got to, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
so yes, they absolutely have to be. If you're Moore, you're trying to block, right? To hold on. And to hold on and run the clock out. If you're Strange, you're trying to dial up.
It's the destruction campaign all over again.
Right, and the carpet bombing is coming, but they're trying to figure out, well, who are we going to bomb that we can get the most push
Let's be clear here. The $2.5 million is a small run in this case.
Yes.
Okay, wow. Yes. Okay, so if you own a TV station,
they're coming for it.
They're coming to bring you a bunch of money. Be ready for it. And radio station as well. We'll be back. We're going to talk a little bit about Trump's tax plan. He unveiled something yesterday. We'll talk about what it was. Stay tuned. It's Yellowhammer TV Live. Welcome back to Yellowhammer TV Live. Let's continue our conversation. Let's talk a little bit about Trump's tax plan. I can't because he didn't really offer up a lot of details, but I think this is the beauty of what Donald Trump does, guys. I think Donald Trump comes out, he lays out a broad outline. He says, we're going to put forth a big tax plan. It's going to pay for itself. All this stuff, you hear all these things, and then he turns to Paul Ryan and Mitch McDonald and goes, yeah, I beat you guys up all the time, but can you do something about this, Shannon? I mean, is this the plan here, not to get too in the weeds, but just demand something get done?
Well, to get deep in the weeds means you have to actually be very well versed at it, right? So President Trump has no history or track record of being a policy guy, particularly on tax policy. But it doesn't mean he's totally ignorant to it as well. He has plenty of advisors around him. He's zeroed in on the corporate tax rate and particularly trying to get private companies to be able to repatriate money, who have money, from other places to bring it back in the country. And he looks at that as a great opportunity for stimulating the economy. He's trying to have this pro-growth, piece, try to get the annual growth rate up. So that's kind of where he's trying to focus. But you got to think about middle-class, everyday folks, right? That's where the rubber meets the road, and the details are going to have to be yet to come, because you have, again, 435 people in the House of Representatives that all have opinions about this
and
thing.
They all have a say.
Yes.
But the issue here is, when you talk in these broad terms and lack of details, you give your enemies the ability to fill in the gaps. And that's what the Democrats are doing. This helps the 1%. It's only about corporations. It's going to harm the average American. And his allies can't say, no, it's not. No, it's not. Here's the actual plan, because there is no plan. I mean, there's got to be some sort of information here other than, hey, Donald Trump's giving a speech and says we should do this. I mean, right?
Yeah, but it's a trade-off, though, too, because if you do give details, the Democrats are going to do the same thing to you then.
Right.
They'll take that and they'll take it to the different associations and different professional groups, and they'll just start peeling off even the people that you're hoping to be your supporters.
Simplifying the tax code, corporate tax rate. This is some of the stuff, the populism that Donald Trump talked about. He's got to get a victory. This is his first attempt to get out there and actually do policy, as opposed to get out there and do insult comedy and good TV. He's out there attempting to do policy here.
Yeah.
I guess we're going to learn whether Trump can do this. I mean,
well, first of all, let's start with the end, and then we can go back to the beginning, right? In the end, this will be a win, okay? Because he has to have it. You remember what when the House voted for health care, right? And the big fanfare about that. No, he's gonna make this into a win regardless. But I think you're seeing a president who has laid out pretty much his priority is this corporate tax rate piece, right? And he's almost saying, I want the corporate tax piece. Now, for Ryan, you guys work out the rest, right? But the corporate piece is what I really want to make happen, and bring that. He's trying to get that 15%. They're talking maybe 20. Where it'll end up at the end of the day. But the middle class stuff, leave some meat on there for members of Congress.
I think something he did yesterday was interesting as well. He went after Claire McCaskill by name, laid her out by name, said, look, if she doesn't vote for this, vote her out, that kind of stuff. I think that shows me that they believe, and there's got to be some polling out here that shows this, that tax cuts are relatively popular, always are. I mean, people like the idea of tax cuts. And that Democrats are vulnerable on this piece in these red states where Donald Trump won, and these people are going to be up. Claire McCaskill's just one of these people. She'd be out if it wasn't for Todd Aiken many, many years ago doing what he did. I mean, this is also a big broadside to Senate Democrats, because they know they're going to have to defend being against tax cuts for businesses and people in 2018. Is that right?
Yes, but I'm not as optimistic as you are, Dale, that they know what they're doing and that they feel like that they have a winning issue on this. I mean, you tell me, how in the world is this going to pass? And I hear what Shannon's saying about it's going to be a win, but anybody, please, yeah, that's and I understood that's what you meant. Yeah. But I ask anybody to tell me how, with the filibuster rule the way it is, this is going to see the light of day. The sad thing to me about this thing is dead, totally dead. And Claire McCaskill, I mean, I've seen Republican presidents call out these so-called vulnerable Democrats forever now. They never. They go home to their safety base.
Okay.
She's not going to respond.
So you don't foresee this as getting through?
No,
the way it is? Okay.
Not close.
Well, very interesting opinions here from you guys. Thank you very much. Let's take a quick time out. When we come back, we'll get into the most important news of the day. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Yellowhammer TV Live. Let's get with these guys and figure out what's important to them today. Shannon, you're up first. What's important to you today?
What's important to me is how many touchdowns will the Alabama Crimson Tide beat Florida State this weekend in Atlanta, Georgia, as the Crimson Tide rolls in. And we're going to roll over Florida State at least by 2 touchdowns.
Florida State and Alabama are the 2 teams I hate more than anybody else, but I hate Florida State more, so I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Stan, what's the big story for you today?
Chelsea Clinton told the Washington Examiner that she spent a year in one of Sheriff Joe's tent jails. So interesting how she explains that she's apparently not fallen too far away from the family tree.
Okay, lying. That's pretty much what they do. The biggest story for me, the most important thing, J.J. Watt. Let's stay on football here for a second like Shannon did. J.J. Watt has now raised close to $10 million for disaster relief. Ellen gave him $1 million yesterday. It all started online with his goal to raise $200,000, and now he's close to $10 million. So an athlete doing something really good for the city he plays sports in. Thanks for being here. We'll be back tomorrow here on Yellowhammer TV Live.